Y'all don't know what I went through.
Do you have a card in your hands right now?
Nike Talk was that place that spiraled what you enjoy now.
Anyone who brought a Kobe shoe in, I would clean it for free.
Man, Melo was better than a lot of people in the league.
I saw that. My favorite jerseys, that one, the Barkley.
Kobe fours.
Oh, yeah.
Sweetie. Episode 47. This is season 3 of the Dandin and RJ Machismo podcast. This is Dandin, and tonight RJ won't be here. However, he does send his regards to everybody. So thank you all for your support. We do appreciate everyone, for tuning in to us. We appreciate the time. So tonight we kick off season 3. We got a special guest. He is Don Griffith. I apologize. AKA Kicksigma. So as you know, Kicksigma is, if you follow him on Instagram and also his website, he does do a lot of curation of all the great Nike basketball from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and beyond. So tonight we got Don. How you doing tonight, Don?
I'm good, man. Just happy to be here.
Oh man, so I see you got some gems already lined up, in your room. So we'll touch into that later. So we're just gonna do a little kickoff, we're just gonna do a little icebreaker. So tell us more about yourself, Don.
Sure. So yeah, my name is Don. I'm Kicksigma on Instagram and kicksigma.com on my website. And I'm a sneakerhead. I mean, I've been a sneakerhead since '95. I was born and raised in Germany, Berlin, Germany. Both of my parents are American, and we moved out there when I was born there, but they moved out there right before I was born, and really got into sneakers right around '95, which was really the golden era of Nike basketball. So it was a hell of a time to get hooked. First love was the Air Max 2 Uptempo. I saw it on a kid's foot in my class. I mean, he was just wearing them, and I happened to look over and saw that he was wearing the Duke colorway. It was actually the youth sizes. It wasn't even the adult sizes because we were little at the time. And I was hooked, and I ran home and started drawing it, and started trying to replicate it. And every day I would come to class, and then I'd look at the shoe and then run home and try to draw it again until I had it right, at least according to my 10-year-old self. And then the rest was history. So that was the shoe that got me hooked. And I played basketball for a while, played in high school, played in college, played semi-professional. So sneakers never really were too far away from me. So, I mean, we're going on, 26, 27 years now.
Wow. That's dope. So a little bit background about you. So you played professional basketball?
Yeah, it was like semi-pro. So
Semi-pro?
I played in the American Basketball Association, the ABA.
Nice.
As we all know, it used to be a big deal. By the time I came along, it was less of a big deal, but still pretty, it was competitive. And tried out there. There was a team in Connecticut, which is where I'm based now, and had an opportunity to play for them. I had to try out. It was about 10 years ago, and made the team and had an opportunity to play. So it was a great experience, but it was also humbling. Maybe it wasn't quite as good as I thought I was, but it was still a great experience.
Hey, I mean, if you made it to the ABA, you made it. That's hard work. So how many years did you play in the semi-pro league?
So I played 1 year. The story is kind of crazy. I mean, we ended up doing really well. We were ranked number 4 in the nation when we were playing. And we had a lot of talent. I mean, a lot of guys that could play. I got a lot better just from going up against guys in practice every single day. Managed to get some playing time. I started as a practice player and then managed to get some playing time. By the end of the season, I had done 2 things. I had applied to law school just as a backup plan because I saw, some guys make it, but a lot of guys really didn't have a backup plan or really didn't have a lot, outside of basketball. And the wear and tear that you're putting your body through at any point that could go. And it ended up being fortuitous because I got an offer at the end of the year to go play in Switzerland, which would have been great because it would have been more money. It's kind of an entry-level pro basketball area. It's a step up from the ABA. It's close to Germany, which was home. So it's kind of a familiar area. And within the matter of one summer, the coach that made me the offer dropped dead of a heart attack.
Oh
The
man.
assistant coach ended up passing away too. Coincidentally, he found out he had stage 4 cancer, so he died. And I ended up getting injured all in the course of like 4 months. So it went from, I'm pursuing basketball and I'm going to go into year 2 of my pro career, get a chance to play in Switzerland and get a chance to work my way up and have a good experience. And it went from that to I literally have nothing. And so the whole thing fell apart after a year. And at that point I was, like 27. And so I had to make a decision. I was rehabbing for my injury and I decided to go the law school route instead of continuing basketball. So I'm glad I got the year, but I wish I would have gotten way more.
It's one of those what ifs, right? Like that still ponders in the back of your mind. Like, hey, what if I stayed healthy, if I still had my coach, what would have, could have. But hey, on the bright side, Don, you've accomplished a lot. You've graduated, you've made it to the pros. And if I don't mind asking, are you in the law firm or do you practice law?
Yeah, so I actually practiced law for a while, and then I transitioned over to HR. So I actually do like investigations now, which a little more hands-on. It's a little more dynamic. So I really enjoy it. So I'm doing that now in my day job. And sneakers, though, is my passion. And I'll say the biggest takeaway that I had from the whole basketball experience is, it definitely can be tough emotionally to think like, what if, and it could have been more. But the flip side is, take the opportunities when they're there, seize them, go for them, don't shy away, just go for it. If you fall on your face, it is what it is, but at least you can look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and say, I went for it. And I think it helps you sleep a little better at night versus if you don't do that. So make the most of whatever presents itself.
Man, that's dope. So, like, if I don't mind asking, like, did you play with anyone that that we recognize, maybe through NBA or collegiate level, or maybe if you played someone back in high school? Were there any like famous NBA players or collegiate players that you played with?
It's funny. So yes. In Germany, there were a lot of guys ended up going pro in Germany because I played, in Germany, you play on your high school team and then you play on your, on a club team too. And the club team is really where it's at in terms of the competition. So, a ton of guys that I played against there ended up going pro in Germany. Actually, one of my high school teammates now is the head coach of the Wagner brothers who are now playing in Orlando. He was there.
Franz
coach
and
Berlin, Moritz, and I forget the other one's name.
Franz. It's Franz.
Yeah, Franz. Yeah.
Franz.
So they, but I never knew them. I mean, he coached them, growing up. I guess he was involved somehow in getting them to Michigan to try to create a pipeline for more German players. When I went to UConn, was where I went undergrad. I played years at the Avery Point campus, which is their like JUCO affiliate, and I played there. And then I had an opportunity to walk on at the big team, on the main team, the UConn Huskies under, at the time it was Calhoun. I was declared ineligible because it was like an age thing where it was like a certain amount of time and you ran out. So I ran out, but the good news was I had the opportunity to practice in the scrimmage. And so basically everybody who came through UConn at that time, I had a chance to go up against. So like, thinking Kemba Walker, Ryan Boatwright, Jeremy Lamb, Lander, like those kind of guys, would come back. I think Hashim the Beat might have been there, so there were a lot of guys there at the time where I got a chance to go up against, and it was really great. And just in working out and sticking with it and not being able to play, not being able to suit up, do anything like that, but just in being able to work out, that gave me the opportunity to play in the ABA. And the ABA, you had a lot of guys who were like fringe, NBA players, a lot of, D1 guys, some D2. I don't think anybody that would be like a household name, but it shouldn't take away from them because these guys were extremely talented. I mean, it just made me appreciate how competitive it was.
Wow, that's dope. So just a little I guess we can talk about the sneakers that you wore. Can you remember the sneakers that you wore like in the pro level? Do you still have any fond memories with that?
Yeah, I do. So my tryout I wore, and I don't have them anymore because I literally ran them into the ground. But my tryout I wore the Ergo LWP, the retros, the black and
Pennies.
white Royal original colorway. Got them in my size and wore those for the tryouts. And so they were like good luck because once I got in, when I found out I got in, I mean it was one of the happier moments that I can remember. So I wore those, and then I spent the season. It's funny. I'm actually, I buy a lot of sneakers and I wear a lot of sneakers in terms of classics. But when it comes to playing, I'm really, really picky about what I play in. So, I'm more likely when it comes to on court to do something like, like Steve Nash did, which is, wear the jet flights for, 5 straight years or whatever it was.
Mhm.
I'm more likely to do something like that. And then in
Yeah.
my day to day walk around, I'll wear, I'll switch it up daily or even within the day several times. So I ended up wearing the Kobe sixes, the navy. I think they're the chaos ones.
Ooh, those are
I wore
nice.
those for most of the season. I actually had a random pair of Air Flight Light 2s from 2001, the Alpha Project ones that lace up on
Yeah.
the side. So I had a random pair of royal and gray ones, and I would wear those I'd break those out periodically, but I'd say the Kobe sixes were my staple, and that's why I wore for most of the games.
Man, that's dope. Yeah, just hearing, your basketball journey, and then also having the sneakers that went along with that era. It's just like, it just has a special place in my heart as far as like talking about like Nike basketball. And we'll talk more about that, Don. So
Certainly.
next question for you. So in reading about your background, so you said that you grew up in Germany, which is predominantly Adidas footwear. I understand that your first exposure was the Nike Uptempo 2. What was it like living in Germany? And were I guess the people that you're around, were they into Nikes more than they were into Adidas?
Yeah, it's a good question. Definitely Adidas was the dominant brand. Definitely. Just like soccer was the dominant sport. So, liking Nike and playing basketball, you're automatically in the minority. But it was a growing minority. It was enough to where you weren't lost without people. I mean, if you think back to the mid '90s, it was the sneakerhead culture was very different than what it is now. It's much more widespread and commonplace than it is back then. So it was harder to find guys that would really appreciate it the same way. So and certainly a lot of the guys were soccer fans and guys that played and wore Adidas, so we got a plenty of that. But we had a good selection of Nikes too. I was in Berlin, so the biggest city, so we would get more of the stuff than maybe a smaller town in Germany would. But that being said, we would only get certain colorways. So like if a shoe released in say whatever 5 colorways, we'd be lucky if we got 2 of them, something like that. So generally speaking, it was much more limited. And then what I would do is, because I had family in the US and we would go in the summers, that's when I would do my research. I get all the magazines. I grew up with, I read the East Bay ones, but that was in the US primarily. My magazine was called Basket, which was the German magazine. And I guess you could call it the German equivalent of, well, you couldn't even really call it that because it had the sneakers, but then it had basketball stuff in it too. So that's where I did my research. And then when I go to the US, I'd research all the different colorways and I'd come back to Germany and, have a better idea of everything that was out there. So it was few and far between. It was harder to get access to stuff, but you could still get stuff. It just maybe not in quite as many colorways as you could over here. And it was more expensive. It cost more.
I could imagine, because the currency too is probably more expensive from what you pay in US dollars compared to I guess what do you call currency is it pounds in Germany?
So it's euros now.
Oh, euros. Okay.
But it transitioned around between 2000 and 2002. But when we're talking 90s, it was Deutschmarks.
Deutschmark. There you go.
Deutschmarks were nowhere near as strong a currency as dollars. And then there was also an upcharge, probably, who knows, maybe, taxes and all that stuff to get them into the country. But for whatever reason, it was generally a little more expensive in Germany than it would be in the US, even when you adjust for the conversion.
Well, and when did you move back to the States from Germany?
Yeah, so we sort of bounced back and forth my whole life. I lived in random place. I lived in Indiana for a while. Spent a lot of time in Connecticut, but permanently, it would have been when I was getting ready to come to college. So I had to make a decision, and that was kind of, I was like, we go 13 years of high school, so I was 19 at the time, and I had to make a decision: do I want to be a German or do I want to be an American? And the Germans are really strict with their citizenship rules. And so, if you want to be a German citizen, you have to renounce your American citizenship. Because I was born there, I had both, but once you turn 18, you have to pick.
Okay.
So, when I turned 18, I had to decide, okay, am I going to stay a German or am I going to become a German and renounce my American citizenship, or am I going to stay an American, but then lose my opportunity to become a German? And I decided, no, I'm going to go to the US. There's more opportunities there. I want to go to college. I want to play ball, but I also want to get an education. So I decided, I'll go to the US. And so I've probably been here, that was probably like 04 when I came to Connecticut permanently. And I've been here ever since.
Nice. So is your family also based in Connecticut too?
Yeah, so families everywhere. Have a contingent in Connecticut, have a contingent in Germany, have a contingent, in Illinois and Indiana, Arizona, kind of all over the place. Pretty sprawling, but there's definitely a contingent in Connecticut. But I came, the connection to Connecticut was my mother had grown up here, and so my grandparents were here, so it was a familiar spot. I had grown up kind of, always had UConn on my radar as a place that I wanted to go to school. And so it just made sense to come back to, like the home away from home. And even though I hate the cold weather, Connecticut has been good to me. So,
hey, if you like cold weather, more power to you.
Yeah, I don't understand. I could never adjust, but
because you are a Husky, at heart.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. That's awesome. So next question for you, Don. So going now into your sneaker passion. So you have a website with Kicksigma.com. So it curates many classic Nike trainers, and Nike basketball from as early as the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So what inspired you to create this content?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think what did it for me was my childhood. It was such a strong like emotion, when I discovered sneakers and discovered my passion for sneakers. And it was also such an exciting time in the world of Nike basketball. I mean, if you think about it, for me it really started in 95. And you figure it, for the rest of the 90s, I mean, there was a lot happening in the world of Nike basketball. So, and then you combine the fact that, it's my first time around, I'm still a kid. So, I think there was just a level of excitement that, I experienced that I wanted to share with everybody else. And what I found was that, now 20 some odd years later, almost 30 years later, I didn't know that I was seeing that to the same extent, and so what I wanted to do is kind of share, well, I want you to see what I'm seeing, I want you to experience the excitement in the way that I experienced it. And so let me try to tell you my story, and then you can take it and run with it, right? So the goal was to kind of foster discussion, but I found that not enough people were really focusing on the niche that I thought was really interesting, which was 90s, primarily Nike basketball, although with some other exceptions, I branch out, but primarily 90s Nike basketball. And so I really wanted to share that with people. I also found that there was there's a lot of people that are sneakerheads, but there was a very small contingent that really knew the history of a lot of these sneakers. And so what I really try to do, and I really go out of my way to do it, is I try to bring something that you're not going to see everywhere else. So Kicksigma.com, my ultimate goal is to get you, it's to provide a service to everybody. And it's to get you something that you're not just going to get, with a simple Google search. You're not going to get even with a more complicated Google search, right? It's something that, if you sit down and really take in the story, my hope is that you come away with some stuff that you never knew before, never realized, and also want to be respectful of people's time. So I try to make it in a way that they can do that in a relatively quick time. So kind of a long-winded answer, but it's I want people to see what I'm seeing and at least know the history, and then hopefully foster a discussion.
Yeah, that's great. Like I said, like we were talking before we recorded, we were pretty much just almost living the same. We were in the same era with, we've experienced the Nike basketball, watching NBA players, and it was like the golden era, right, of Nike basketball, where up and coming athletes such as Kevin Garnett, um, Steve Nash, Kobe, uh, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen. Nothing against with Jordan, but these NBA players propelled Nike basketball. And Penny Hardaway is one of the prime examples that shot up Nike basketball. No disrespect to Charles Barkley with his CB34 line, but it was Penny. In my opinion, I think it was Penny that propelled it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I would throw Scottie Pippen in there too, but I totally agree with you. It's one of the things that I've done on my site is I focus a lot on the price and the price adjusted for inflation. So a lot of times I'll tell you, it cost whatever 150 back in '96, and adjusted for inflation in 2022, that's whatever 250 or whatever it is. So and the reason I do that is try to I'm really interested in the concept of value and what people value and how things are valued, because that's really a big part of the sneakerhead culture is, what do you value and why do you value it? And, at least when we're looking at, to your point about no disrespect to Jordan, because obviously a fantastic line. But, if you look at, for instance, in Germany, what was driving it, it was Air Max basketball. That was driving it. That, if it came down to, getting the Jordan 11 or the Air more Uptempo, I would say more guys would go for the more Uptempo, and I would see more guys wearing the more Uptempo. And that was a pretty consistent theme there. And not for nothing. I mean, if you look at the prices back in the mid 90s, a lot of times the Air Max basketball was the more expensive shoe than even the Jordan. So, Nike wouldn't make that, Nike doesn't do something like that by mistake. They knew what the deal was. So I think there was multifaceted. Now, obviously, Jordan has become its own brand. It's skyrocketed. It's not to take away from anything. It's way more valuable than anything is now. But there was a time where it was rivaled by some of the other Nike silhouettes. And so that's really important to look at too.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't realize that Nike basketball was its own competition against Jordan Brand, because Jordan Brand wasn't even a brand. They were still Nike with the Nike box. The orange, the cardboard box that we used to have back in the day.
Right.
So they were still affiliated. They didn't have its own specific Jordan brand back then. It was still part of Nike. So
Right.
that's something that people should still take, always remember, or just a reminder that, hey, once upon a time Jordan was part of Nike, and will be, especially like the retro stuff.
Exactly.
All right, so next question for you. How much of an influence have Nike athletes and music artists, in the 90s and 2000s, such as Penny Hardaway, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, or I can just say like MTV, Rock and Jock, for example. How did they play an influence as far as the Nike branding, from the 90s and 2000s?
So are you saying for me or you think more generally?
For you.
For me? So I would say definitely more of the athletes than like MTV and pop culture. It was something I never really tuned into as much. So for me, it was definitely more, watching the players growing up. I have a sort of funny relationship with being a fan. When later on, when I became older, and I was actually, when I was trying out at UConn, And I started realizing, like, man, these are guys in the NBA. I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I'm not the most athletic. I'm not the most naturally talented. So I need every edge I can get. And so I remember making a decision that I'm going to stop. I'm not going to be a fan of anybody. I'll respect other people, but I'm not going to be a fan. And in my head, what that did is it gave me the mental edge to say, I'm never going to be in awe of anybody because I may run into you on the basketball court. And so again, me being in my situation, I need every edge I could get. That being said, before that, I was a huge fan of, I was a huge Bulls fan, like everybody else. I was a huge Jordan fan. I was a big Penny Hardaway fan. I was a big fan of like David Robinson, Charles Barkley, all the big guys. And for me, it was just as important to see how the guy played as it was to see the sneakers he was wearing. And so that was really important. And that coupled with, because we're in Germany, we didn't get to see all the games, if they even showed them, beyond at like 3 a.m. or something like that. So I remember staying up late a couple nights, but really where I got my information was either from the newspaper, because we got the international newspaper, but it was 2 days later, or I would get the Basket magazine, which I guess you could say it's the equivalent of Slam, right? Mm-hmm. But Basket, the German magazine. And so that's where I got most of my info. And I would go through and look at all the sneakers. So I'd say those guys had a huge influence on me, because most times I would see them wearing the sneaker first, or I'd see it in the back of the magazine and then go back and try to find a player wearing them.
That's great. All right. So next question for you. And I like this question. Actually, so one of your favorite Nike footwear, Don, is the Flightposite and Foamposite models. How did that first catch your attention?
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about that, because when you asked that question, I was like, I don't know that anybody's ever asked me that before. So I'd say the Flightposite 1 is my favorite shoe, period. I think I can come out and say that pretty confidently. The Air Max 2 Uptempo is the one that started it all. It will always have a special place, but the Flightposite 1 is hands down my favorite shoe. I think where it started, the Foamposites are great. I prefer the Flightposites. I think where it started was, well, when I first saw the Foamposite, I didn't know what it was. It was actually transfixed next to, it was the Foamposite, and right next to it was the black and neon Air Total Max Uptempo.
Yeah.
At the time, Big Air was the thing, and so you always go for the Big Air model. That was just my thing. And I saw this Foamposite model, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's as cool as this Big Air model. And then it was so inaccessible, and very few. I knew one kid who had them miraculously, and nobody else did. So kind of forgot about it. The next year, the Total Air Foamposite Max came out, the Duncans. Originally they were advertised as the David Robinson, so I, in my head, always think David Robinson. Those came out. The German magazines charged 400 marks for them, which was like unprecedented. I mean, this is like,
wow,
high 100s, maybe close to $200. And they even, I'll never forget it. In the magazine, when they came out, it said, this is the most valuable shoe on the market. That's what it started with. In German, it said it right underneath the shoe. And this was on the same page as some Jordans and some pennies and some everything. It was like, no, this one is the thing. It had the most air I've ever seen. That was my shoe. I mean, that was my grail. Couldn't get a hold on it because I had a very strict budget limit, and that thing was out of my budget. And I remember being so excited because I found a pair. Every time I would take any excuse I could to get to Foot Locker or get to any, Nike Town opened around that time in Germany, and I'd take any excuse just to go look at them because I knew I'd never get them, right? At least as a kid. And one day, and this had to be early summer of '99, there was a pair of gold Flightposites right next to the Foamposites, the Foamposite Max, and they were right next to each other. And I picked up the Foamposite Max, then I picked up the Flightposite, and I didn't like it at first, but I kept like staring at it, and then over time it grew on me until the point where I was like, no, this is the best shoe. And the only thing I can say is, in hindsight, it's probably the shoe that converted me out of just being strictly an Air Max, Big Air basketball kind of fan into realizing that no, there are other things, and it doesn't have to have, Air Max features in order for it to be something that could be appealing. And so I think that's when that change happened. And so the Flightposite was really instrumental. And there was nothing like, the gold colorway that I'd ever seen at the time. So the rest is history. The Flightposite one is hands down my favorite shoe.
Have you ever hooped in the Flightposite ones?
I have. So I never I wore the black retro pair for my UConn tryout. So that meant a lot. The first pair I ever owned, again, they were out of my budget. So the first pair I ever owned was actually in 03. I got a pair of the white and Carolina blue ones. And I wore those, and they broke kind of quickly, but they were great to play in. And I wore those for my last year of high school until they fell apart. And then later on, I managed to get another, I started to get the other original pairs when I had a little more money. I was working in college, during the off season. And so I had a little more money, and then I had a few pairs. So yeah, I've hooped in them. At this point, I've hooped in most of the colorways, and I'm still a fan of playing in them. So, I don't play in them anymore because they'll, I don't have a pair that'll hold up, but if I did, I would.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably hoop in the recent retro ones. I think they had like the royal one, the royal colorway with the translucent sole.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, one of my things about what happened with the Flightposite, I was actually kind of disappointed with the most recent. So as of 2014, you get the 2014 versions of the Flightposite, and they changed the outsole on the medial side, and the shape looks a little different. I was a big fan of the 2008 run of retros where we had, a couple of the OG colorways come back. I was a huge fan of those. Thought they did a good job. I mean, no retro is perfect. It's not the original. I get it, but it was close. But the 2014 version, I had to draw a line. I just didn't like what Nike did with it. And to this day, part of Flightposite Friday is to bring attention to the way the Flightposite, in my opinion, is supposed to look, the original look, and try to encourage Nike to bring back the original version and a more accurate mold as opposed to what they're putting out now.
Now, do you think your voice is heard every time that you make a plea on your Flightposite Fridays? And you say, please retro this, please retro that. Can we get the Air Battle Max with the double strap? Has Nike or like any like content creator or I guess anyone message you about, hey, like I remember those sneakers, like I want them to get them retro again.
I think it's a good question. I mean, I don't want to be so arrogant as to presume that I'm the voice people are going to listen to. I mean, I think, I'm a smaller part of something much bigger, so I think for me, it's really about trying to gauge, interest and get an understanding of, well, what's the rest of the community think? Here's what I'm thinking, sitting in my living room in Connecticut, but what about everybody else, around the world? And one of the beauties of Instagram and my website is, you really get people from around the world opining. So you're not just getting, your own neck of the woods. You're getting people from, I'm talking to people from China, people from, South America and all over the place, South Africa. So it's really special. I hope someone listens. It'd be nice. I don't know that. I don't know if they will. I hope they will. But more importantly, I hope they listen to us, the collective voice, because, I think it's part of the beauty of this is, getting the most people what they want. So if I have an opinion that maybe not a lot of people share, well, then maybe it's not, maybe you shouldn't listen to me, right? Because maybe there's no money in it. And at the end of the day, I think Nike is out to make, they're making money. And so they're going to look at, what shoe is going to bring them, a profit and what's going to justify the cost of production and doing all the work. So there will be some that may come back and some that won't. I'd like to think I can contribute in some way, however small it is. But it's really about seeing, who else is out there who agrees. And if we all agree, then yeah, let's make this happen. And if it turns out that I have an unpopular opinion, well, it's good to know too, because I never put it past me. Then at least we know where we stand.
And Nike, just if you're listening to this podcast or my Kicksigma, this year marks the 25th anniversary of the neon Foamposite ones. So we need something that commemorates maybe a March Madness when when Mike Bibby wore them in the NCAA championship back in '97. I mean, there's money to be made, people. I know the Foamposite neons the Royals were retro four or five times already. It never got the exact molding or shade.
Right.
I've owned the 2006 pair. I think that's the closest one as far as like the molding and the color. But something that would, I know it's expensive from a cost standpoint. I know the materials are expensive for them to make rather than a Jordan 1, or like a Nike Dunk. I think it's fair, it's something that they should like give us as far as like commemorating the anniversary. I mean, just like when they do like the 75th anniversary for like Air Force One or however years it was already, what was it? 40 years now since '82. So they're doing something with that. So why not do something for Foamposites,
Exactly. And pennies sell. I mean, Penny's line always sells. So I mean, I agree with you completely. The other thing I would say that I'd really love to see Nike do is bring back the bigger air bubbles, the original air bubbles, the larger size as opposed to the thinner ones. They just don't look as good aesthetically. They're not as, comfortable to wear. I mean, to me, they have zero utility. It kind of ruins a lot of the models. I won't buy any of the Air Uptempo retros because of that, just because the bubbles are off. And I've heard different theories about why they don't do it, but to me, ultimately, to quote guy InStyle Shoes, who I follow is a great guy, and to quote him, hey, if you can make a 270, if you can make an Air Max 270 with a larger size bubble, there's got to be a way to get something closer to what the original bubbles look like. And so, I'd love to see them do that in addition to making the Flightposite look a little better, and getting an accurate Foamposite 1 retro would be great too.
Yeah, that's a good point. You brought that up. I mean, if Nike can make a Air Max 270 that's sat on shelf for over more than a year or 2 years and no one's buying them, why can't you just replicate something with a bigger bubble?
Yeah.
But on the bright side, Don, we are getting we're getting a Nike Penny One retro this year, which is great. And I know that Penny Hardaway is going to be collaborating with Stussy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the collaboration, and I hope that sparks the Nike basketball brand, because like I said, my opinion, Penny Hardaway was the person that kicked off the Nike basketball. And hopefully it'll be great, because I know he's coaching Memphis now, and then you see him, he's not wearing dress shoes, he's wearing his own Foamposites, his Penny Ones, Soul Collector. Is just like he's just neck breaking like every single time that you see him at his coaching from the sideline.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, his line is always sold. It pretty much from day one. I mean, it always did. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm hoping that we start seeing more of that. I'm really excited about the Air Max Penny retros. We're finally getting a home colorway. We're getting the Orlando. I'm really excited about that. Definitely disappointed about they're probably gonna have thinner bubbles. I'll wait and see when I get them in hand, but it would have been great to see like a Air Max 270 bubble size in there, it'd make it look a little, closer to the original, something like that. So I'm excited to see him, and hoping that Nike continues their efforts to, replicate, the masterpieces that they created in the 90s. Because there really were some masterpieces, and I think it can.
I hope so too. They have something good going on. I mean, especially when they announced it with Penny Hardaway. with the re-retro of the penny ones. A lot of people like don't even know, haven't even, not up against like the younger generation who never got to see Penny Hardaway, but this is their opportunity for them to know more about the brand, and hopefully they can re-retro like the penny twos, threes, fours, penny fives and sixes. I wasn't much of a fan.
Yeah, same.
Some people like them, but I care more like the original ones that he wore in the in the court. So
Same.
all
Same.
all right. So next question for you, Don. So today is Friday. So Friday is one of your favorite times to post on your Kicksigma page, which is Flightposite Fridays. So explain to us, what is Flightposite Fridays?
Sure. So, like I've said, the Flightposite is my favorite model. And Flightposite Fridays really started really just because I wanted to share it. I mean, that's really where it started. I think the other thing that it started with, is we talked about a little bit, was my frustration in the way the Flightposite model has been, in my opinion, ruined. The 2K14 ones, and from 2014 on, the shape is off, the medial insole is different. I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. That's just me personally, being someone who really appreciates the originals. It's not my thing. And so I wanted people to see and appreciate what the actual, what the original Flightposites, or at the very least the original retros, looked like. And I wanted to shed light on, here's why I love this shoe so much. Let's see if we can't, let's see if everybody else likes it. And so, people have really enjoyed the Flightposite Fridays, I think, and it's gotten popular. And so I decided, let me keep meeting the demand, because it's something I love to post. It's something that people continue to, there is a demand for it. And so this is something where I think we're onto something here. I recently wrote an article on Kicksigma.com where I featured all of the Flightposite ones, and I gave every single colorway, and gave all the details, when they released, when they retroed, if they retroed, the original price, some of the specs, the features, and then did a feature on the takedown as well. So that's actually on my site right now. If you go under Kicksigma.com, you'll see it. So yeah, it's just something that's really kind of snowballed into something much bigger. But it started with me wanting to highlight my favorite shoe and kind of express my frustration on the changes that I don't think are for the better, and hoping that we get some changes back to something a little closer to the original.
Yeah, I mean, that's dope. Especially, I mean, you can start, I see, start doing the hashtag Flightposite Fridays. So, maybe like, how with the algorithm and Instagram, and, that could catch on, especially like an OG collector, like, hey, what's Flightposite Fridays? And then they click on the hashtag, they see all your posts. I mean, that'll be great, because, you're doing that now, especially for someone that appreciates Flightposite like me and other people. Your work is appreciated, Don, and also with the writers of Kicksigma, and you guys are doing great. Like I look forward, like every Friday, like I wonder what Don's gonna be posting now. And then today, like he posted the Flightposite twos, and I like, oh, I love this shoe. It's so comfortable. It's actually, in my opinion, it's the, I wouldn't say the most I say the Flightposite ones are the most comfortable, because it just fits your feet. But the Flightposite twos are the most, like, second most comfortable out of the three. The Flightposite threes wasn't that comfortable, because the two straps hugs your feet, and I get the lockdown. They wanted more of a, I guess, like a guard based shoe, especially when it was primarily Allen Houston's shoe when he would play for the Knicks, and also Penny's shoe too. But like you were saying, oh, what's your favorite Flightposite? What do you think of the black ones? And then I posted like, hey, like I like it, but my biggest gripe is, over time, the nubuck suede cracks over 10 years, because it's not something that you can just wear out of the box, like a Jordan infrared 6 or a metallic 6, or the suede it still keeps intact. Whatever material that they used back in 2000, it doesn't hold up. And I guess it's just during that time where materials are, that's the right material, but they didn't think over time, this is a shoe that you can't wear for the long run. It's just more maybe for like an NBA season or maybe for casual wear, and then it'll just fall apart, which is the sad part because for the Flightposite ones, that's a sneaker that's timeless classic. It's to me that's like the if I would in my opinion, that's the Jordan 1 of Nike basketball. My
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
It's the first time you've seen Flightposite technology with the Zoom technology. It lasts like a Jordan 1. It's built like a tank. You can wear it in all, or any type of weather, summer, spring, fall, winter. You live in Connecticut. I'm sure you've wore Flightposites in the snow, in the rain,
Oh yeah.
and that thing will like keep your feet, warm and dry versus like wearing like a Timberland boot or whatever winter boot that there was. To me, that's just my opinion. It's the Jordan 1 of Nike basketball. No disrespect to Penny. It's the shoe that captivate. It just I guess I'm not sure if it's an East Coast thing. I don't see anyone in the West Coast because they're maybe predominant. It wasn't. They don't have like the weather conditions back in the East, but it's a classic in my opinion. Like for for our generation.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it was such a game changer that in the market as well as for me personally. That yeah, I completely agree with you. And they somehow managed to make it both lightweight and like extremely durable and sturdy. Like you said, they're like tanks. They really are, and yet they're lightweight at the same time, which I think is really ahead of its time. If you think about this was developed in, they released in '99, so they're developing in '98. So we're talking almost 25 years ago at this point.
Yeah, time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
All right, so we are towards the end of this our podcast, Don. I appreciate it, but I wanted to share something with you because I'm very passionate with Nike basketball, and then I'm going to bounce it off to you as well.
Sure.
So I'm going to show you the sneakers that I like right now currently. These are the shoes that I could grab, it was within reasonable reach. So I can't really go towards the bottom of the sneaker or go to my my shed or my attic. I can't gotta like look through them, but I'm sure you'll have appreciated of them. So I brought 5 pairs.
That's a good point. That's a good problem to have, by the way.
Yeah. All right, so the first sneaker I'll show you, and this was actually gifted by me by the homie Barry. It's the Zoom Flight 96. So nice. This shoe, I remember, Penny Hardaway wore them with the Olympic colorway with the 6. And I remember watching MTV where MTV was music, purely music, right? So I remember seeing like LL Cool J like wearing them at I guess like it was one of the performances, and it was when he was wearing like one leg up, he rolled his pants and then one pants down. And I remember he wore this sneaker. I was like, damn, like this, not only was Penny, it was also like the hip hop influence too. So this is a nice pair that I own, and it was gifted by me. So shout out to Barry. Next pair that I'm gonna show it to you, and you actually posted this on your Instagram page. It's the Nike Hawk Flight. So this is from the class of 97 pack. It doesn't have like the I guess it was like this line was all the way down here with the OG pair. So I was fortunate to get this from I copped this last year for a pretty good price with the 97 pack. And I remember Gary Payton was the one that wore this. Remember, it was like the white and silver colorway with the green translucent sole.
Yep.
So he was the guy, like, man, like I wanted that pair, but it was always sold out in my area. And from what people told me, this was a good hooping shoe. Did you ever hoop in these?
I did. I never hooped in the OG, but I got a pair of those exact retros. And I hooped them. I like them. I like playing in them. They're comfortable. I actually wrote an article about them on Kicksigma.com, and if you go on there, you can actually see a picture of Peyton wearing that colorway as well in a tournament. So he, but you're right. He mostly wore the green pair. The tournament was unrelated to the NBA. It was like a summer something. And yeah, that's a fantastic shoe to play in.
It is, and it's light too. For a retro. I mean, considering the material that they make now, it's even a fake carbon fiber. It's not like the real one. It's still a nostalgic shoe for me. Like I said, they're passionate for dunks, they're passionate for Jordan 1s, et cetera, et cetera. But Nike basketball will always have like a special place in my heart. Especially you got stuff in me. I'm going to bounce that off to you in a bit. So yeah, this is one of my favorite pairs too of Nike, with the Nike basketball, and with the other pack of that class of '97. The next pair that I like is the Pearl Foam Posits.
Yes.
This is and I see it there too. So I would love to hear more about your pair. So I had the original pair back in '97. I played basketball, but sparingly in them. I love how it molds in your feet, but it's heavy. It's a heavy shoe to hoop in. I had the O2 pair. I also owned the House of Hoop pair. It was like the darker material colorway of the it's kind of like they call it like the champagne pearl colorway, the House of Hoop exclusive. So I was happy that this came in the pack. And it's a classic shoe, man. I mean, people will always remember, that's when Ray Allen, Jesus Shuttleworth was sitting on the bench talking to his dad, and he got game. So and this shoe too. I mean, it's also when he was playing with Denzel Washington.
Yep.
So yeah, this is a great shoe. And then the fourth shoe, and I've showed it to Don already, is the 1999 original Flightposite 1. So I got this pair. I got it through eBay for $50, which was a steal. The reason why it was so cheap because the soles were separated, so I got it restored. It was just a nostalgic shoe for me. High school where I couldn't afford anything. I would always see my classmates having these, and you can tell it's the original one where it doesn't have the Nike swoosh on here. But I'm just fortunate to just have this pair. Wore it a couple of times now. I'm pretty scared to wear them because it's a 20-plus-year-old shoe. All right, and then the last pair.
Dope collection, man.
I mean, it's just like what's
awesome.
Just a little something just to show and tell. So the last pair, and you talked about this, Don, with one of the answers that I asked you. So this is my favorite Nike basketball pair, and probably it is one of yours when I see your top 5 or whatever. It's the gold Flightposits. Yep. So these were the 2008 pair. I also had the original ones from '99 with the OG Nike box. And to your point, this was the best mold because this was the best mold. The soles is not as flat towards like the retros. The weight is nice. People would recognize, oh, that's Green Goblin from Spider-Man, he wore them. Or this shoe was actually like not appealing to everyone back in the day. It's like, why is there a gold shoe? And a lot of people didn't know there was a Nike basketball commercial. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you remembered. There was 2 commercials with Kevin Garnett. I think it was the comedian guy. I can't forget it. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it was taped his ankles, and then KG was said, you're gonna miss, and he missed. And then there was another one. I think it was like these Asian like scientists. I don't know if you remember that, or if you probably did, Don. Yeah, so it were like they're like aliens or something. Not Asian scientists. They were like aliens or like some scientists. They were molding this shoe, and then this was like they delivered to Kevin Garnett's house. Yep. It was only like a 30 second commercial. So this shoe always has a special place in my heart. And also, a lot of people didn't know. I mean, people probably knew about it. Kenyan Martin, this was Kenyan Martin's favorite hoop shoe back in '99 when he was with the Cincinnati Bearcats. And when he also busted this pair out when he played for the Denver Nuggets.
Nuggets. Yeah, the retro pair, right?
Yep. And I was like, oh my god! Like when I think it was like a away game, and he wore the I think it was like the dark Nugget the jerseys,
Yep.
and then he busted these out. I was like, my mouth dropped. I didn't see like the game itself, but I just saw like the pictures. It was just crazy. So yep. So this is just my little top 5 pair, Don, and I'm gonna bounce it off to you. I want to see your top 5.
First of all, man, thank you for the blast from the past, the trip down memory lane, man. That never gets old. Like, I love seeing it. So yeah, I mean, let me show you, some of the ones, it was hard to keep it to 5. Obviously I have to start with the Air Max 2 Uptempo. This is the 2011 retro.
Dookies.
Yeah, this is the shoe that started it all. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it. So this is a shoe that started it all for me, as I had talked about earlier. Shortly thereafter, I saw this colorway, the low top.
Ooh.
The original Air Max, and I got the box.
Oh my gosh.
Air Max box from 95. I think it's dated February of 95. So I'll give you a close up. This is the white, black, dark Concord low top version from 1995. Never been retro. And this was my second favorite color because I saw it shortly after I saw the Duke colorway. And so I was all over these. So huge fan of those. Before we get into Flightposite Friday, another honorable mention, all-time favorite of mine is the Air Total Max Uptempo. So this is actually the Euro edition colorway. It's the white, royal, and silver. Didn't release in the US, and actually the only Air Total Max colorway to never retro. So this is the original from 1997. I do have the other 3 colorways as retros. You see white navy, black silver, neons. I love them, but this is my grail in terms of when we talk among these shoes, among the Total Max. So this is my favorite colorway of that. Never got retro, don't know why. But I've written extensively about all of them on my site. Then if we get into Flightposites, I mean, the Flightposit, just like you, this is the red pair. I love it. It's the one that really changed it for me. It is hands down my favorite. Aside from Kenyan Martin, I don't know if you know DeMar Johnson.
DeMar Johnson,
for Cincinnati.
Yep.
So he was actually kind enough to comment on our Instagram a while back. I did a post tributing, as a tribute to him, because he's an underrated sneakerhead. I mean, guys don't talk enough about him. His sneaker game was on point. He's a hell of a basketball player, and his sneaker game was on point. And this guy he wore almost every OG colorway of the Flightposite. And so I posted a series of photos with it had to be like 10 different pictures of him in different Flightposits, and he commented how much he loved the shoe. So I think this was a popular shoe in Cincinnati.
Yeah. And you know what, Don, I hate to cut you off because DeMar Johnson, he's from Maryland. I'm from Maryland. This sneaker was a uniform. So not only it was a performance shoe, it was a daily wear shoe. That's why DeMar Johnson is from the DMV, from DC. These were everything. Like I was telling you, these were everything for everyone that lived in that area. That's why, like, when you commented, that kind of struck a chord in his heart. Like, hey, I love those shoes. I hooped in them when I was in Cincinnati. So
yeah, no, I mean, seriously, I mean, it just goes to show how 20 some odd years later, the passion is still there. So it was a really special moment to hear it directly from him. A guy who was such an ambassador for it, and in my opinion, doesn't get enough credit for both his game and his sneaker game. Which was really on point. Keeping with the Flightposits, I mean, these are the retros. I had the originals, but these are the eggplant retros. We saw those. Have the black pair.
I still need them.
If anybody from Nike ever watches, this is what we need fixed. We need the medial outsole fixed because they changed that. So hoping that one day we get that back. The silver pair.
Oh my God.
The metallic silver. Love that pair.
You know what's funny, Don? I used to own the European Flightposite ones, the silver exclusive ones.
Same
There's
here.
if there's a different shade of silver that makes it stand out. That's why they call it. It's not the Flightposite 1B that shows in the Nike Alpha Project box.
Right.
It's a special box. I forgot how it's. Maybe I think it's Flightposite 1.
Yep.
But you can tell it's not a dull silver like the Flightposite B. It's a brighter silver.
So I actually did some research. So I wrote an article where I went through all the original colorways, and I did some research because I before I owned this, I owned the Euro edition one too. I stopped calling it the Euro only because I found a pair in Canada as well.
Whoa.
It was one year we were playing in Canada. We were playing in the international children's games for basketball, and I was a kid. I was like 15. And I went into a sneaker store and I found them on the shelf, and they blew my mind. I didn't know they released in a silver colorway, and I found them. And the difference was, the American version, the Flightposite B, was a smoother finish.
Mm-hmm.
It was a duller silver. And the official colorway was metallic silver. The ones that the Euro or the international ones that you and I are talking about that we both know and love, they had a grainier finish, almost like more of a it was more of a textured finish. It was shinier, like you said, absolutely. Yep. And the color is called majestic silver. If you look at it, it's actually called the majestic silver.
Yeah.
Metallic silver, which I thought was a little cool detail. So I highlight that in the article. But yeah, those are awesome. I like those better than the ones I have, right now. They were great. In keeping with the Yukon tradition, I managed to get a dead stock pair of the Navy ones.
Oh my god, the obsidian! Oh my god!
Yeah, pearlized navy white. And by contrast, the white and navy.
Oh my god!
Never come back either. So, huge fan of both of these. These remind me of, this is before my time at UConn, but this reminds me of, some of the guys that I would go up and watch, like in the summers, just to see, like,
wow,
guys are wearing these. So these are both unretroed, some of my all-time favorites.
That's crazy. I got a shout out to my friend Kevin, my homie Kevin. He's the homie Isa Hazel. He's a big Flightposite guy, Flightposite one guy. He owns the Obsidians, and that I think he used to own that colorway. Yeah, when he sees it, I'm gonna ask him to watch it when I record this. He's gonna
That's awesome, man.
He's just gonna be like, I can't.
Well, love to connect with them because always appreciate guys who love the Flightposite. I picked up a couple others. These are managed to get, and actually had a good deal on these, but managed to get the Team Bank colorways too. So I got them all dead stock in box. This is the white black Team Bank colorway. So this is brand new, never worn, great condition considering they are 23 years old.
The orange box, right?
Yep, the orange box that has a ton of mistakes on it, by the way. I pointed this out, but they actually spelled it wrong. It's spelled like Flightposite as opposed to Flightposite. I don't know if you can see that.
I never noticed that. That's wild.
Yeah,
that makes
all three companies have it. And then the other mistake is in English it says made in Indonesia, but in French it says made in Taiwan. So I'll try to zoom in here. I don't know if you can see that.
I can see it. That's weird.
Look really closely.
That is insane.
Somebody wasn't editing.
No.
Before that went out, but at least they did a great job on the shoe. So this is the white.
Crazy. Do you ever plan? So a question for you: the ones that you're dead, the Flightposite that are dead stock for you, Don. Will you ever wear them at some point? Because there's a saying with dead stock shoes, they're meant to be worn.
So I'm definitely an advocate for wear your sneakers. I mean,
Okay.
let me start with that. I definitely lean towards wear your sneakers.
Okay.
There are some exceptions.
Okay.
And I'll show you a few that I haven't worn. I've shown you some, like some of the the Flightposites and stuff that I haven't worn. I think it depends, you know, like for some of the '08 retros, I would wear those. I'm all over those. You know, the Team Bank ones, that's hard because I think as soon as I wear them, the whole thing will fall apart, you know. So I'm kind of worried that, you know, the sole, you know, detach, you know, the whole thing will fall apart, and it gets, you know, that might be hard. So I don't know if I'll ever wear those. I've kind of gone back and forth, and I haven't. At this point, I'm leaning no, but we'll see.
Hey,
You know?
if you decide to wear them and they do fall apart, my guy can fix them for you. Highly recommended. He fixed up my Flightposite ones, so they're 100% wearable again. Yeah, I mean, like I said,
yeah, no, he and let me just say he did a fantastic job because you showed me them earlier. So yeah, I may take you up on that because if I do decide to wear them and they fall apart, it looks like guy is the guy we reach out to. So he, yeah, I may have to do that. Speaking of which, here's the other one, the red ones. So same Team Bank, and then of course, you know, the Royal ones, all dead stock. So these are Royal.
Oh my God. And we were the same size too, Don. I'm a 12 too.
Yeah, I'm a 12.
You're lucky you're in Connecticut.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's out here, so I think I'm safe.
You're safe, and nobody knows about Flightposits there, so you're good. It's not
nobody cares about it out here.
It's not a Jordan 1. You're good.
Yeah, no, nobody. People will leave me alone here. And then of course, you know, the Flightposite 2. So, you know, these are both the retros. You know, again, because I'm a big proponent of wear your sneakers. You know, if a retro is available, I will pick up a retro because I'm wearing them. So I pick those up. And then I guess the last thing I would show you is, you know, we haven't talked much about Jordans. You know, I like Jordans. They're not what Nike basketball is for me. But, you know, I did manage to collect all of the original Jordan 11s, at least the mid ones, and just have them all dead stock.
Nice.
So, you know, we've seen the Concords. So these are dead stock, never worn.
Is that from 95 or 2000?
From 95. So
wow.
These are the 95 originals, just brand new in box, dead stock. These are the original playoff ones.
Wow.
In box, dead stock. Picked up the I was disappointed to find out these weren't coming back this year.
Obvious.
Getting something out, but something else. But these are the dead stock.
That blue translucent sole that just does it, you know.
You know, it's starting to oxidize, but yeah, the blue translucent sole did it for me. So those are dead stock, and then, you know, not true originals, but you know, the first
one.
It's
the first. Yeah, it's the 2000 Space Jam. Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, an original, but you know, it's a retro, and then, you know, the original cool grays.
Cool gray.
From 2000.
I still have my pair.
Pretty serious oxidation going on. They're almost like green at this point. But
wow.
So those are some of the things I wanted to share. Very near and dear to my heart.
What about the shoes in the back? Like I see there's some over there.
Yeah, so a couple here, you know. So I had a few here. These are the foam Posits, which I'm with you. Love the pearl foams. Was a big fan of those. Never actually managed to get a pair. I remember back in, it must have been 98, I found a pair on sale, but they were still slightly above my target. And I was, you know, 13. I was begging my mom to get them. She
mom wasn't having
very disciplined, you know. My mom is one of the most wonderful people I know, but she doesn't play, you know. So she, you know, she said, no, it's not over the, you know, it's over budget. We're not doing it. And, you know, I respect her for it. You know, she but I finally managed to get a pair. So this is the retro pair from the pack.
The 97 pack. Yeah.
You know, the original Royal, not the originals, but the original Royal colorway. These are the 2017.
Okay. The 20th anniversary one, right?
Yeah. So, you know, like them because I can wear them. So that's important to me. And then managed to grab a pair of the Garnet 3s, which I think is a very slept on model. Again, this is the 2015 retro, again, so I can wear it.
What do they call it? Is it Air Flight 3?
Yeah, they're called the Air 3 now.
Air 3. Okay, that's what it was.
It's called the Air 3. But yeah, back in the day, you know, I had a pair of these in high school. Sophomore year, I really wanted the black pair. couldn't find the black pair anywhere in my size. Didn't occur to me to look online, so I ended up going for the navy and chrome pair, which grew on me, and it ended up being a good choice in hindsight. And wore them all through high school. Talk about a shoe I loved playing in. Played in those, and then played in the Space Jams. So that was sophomore year. But managed, didn't have them for like 20 years, and then managed to grab a pair last year. So really excited about these. Just love this.
I used to hoop in the black and royal pair. I love that shoe.
Yeah, I always wish I had. That's the only colorway I never. Always wish I had that one, man. That was one of my favorites. So, and originally it was supposed to be a penny.
Mm-hmm.
So it was.
He didn't like them. I think because like KG was blowing up, and they just gave him his own KG line, and that was the KG3.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Exactly. So last question for you, Don, and I appreciate your time. What are the pairs that you're looking for currently?
Yeah. I want to complete my original Flightposite collection. So I think right now I'm looking for, the charcoal and red colorway of the Flightposites. I used to have them, sold them a while back. So looking for those dead stock. Looking for the white and Carolina Flightposites dead stock, and then looking for the dead stock OG carbon fiber Flightposite ones. Those are probably the top three. I'd say, the other shoe that is kind of like my grail right now is the Flightposite 3, the black and royal. If I could get a dead stock pair, Flightposite 3. It's the one Flightposite I've never owned.
Really?
Yeah. It just wasn't in the cards. I had several opportunities, and different things would come up, different priorities. At one point I ended up getting a pair of dress shoes instead of the Flightposite 3s because I needed a pair of dress shoes. So like just different things kept getting in the way of me being able to get them. So if I wish Nike would retro those. It's definitely a maybe a little far-fetched, but I hope one day we can get a pair of those, or I'll settle for an OG pair. But I'd love to have a pair that I could wear of the Black Royal original Flightposite 3s. That would be my top.
The nice thing, because I also own the black and royal Flightposite 3s and the black and charcoal ones. The nice thing about owning the Flightposite 3s is it's almost the same material as the Flightposite 1s. With this, this shank right here, where you see like if you see your black charcoal pair, it's the same material as the Flightposite 3. So
interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
There's like you see that spark. You think there's like a small sparkle, right? And when you wear it all the time, because it's the material of it.
These have them. If you look closely, you can kind of. I don't know if you can see it in here.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah, it's a little bit. So yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I definitely wish. I definitely envy you, man. You got it.
I envy you, and I envy you that you live far away, because I can't. You know what I'm saying? And we're the same size, Don. It breaks my heart.
We'll have to team up and looking for sneakers. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if they have 12 in the same, colorway, then maybe we can be cool about it. So. All right, Don. So, where can they find you on Instagram, and tell us more about, Kicksigma, your website?
Sure. Yeah, and thank you. So my website is kicksigma.com. So that's KICKSIGMA.com. And if you just type in the word Kicksigma in Google, it'll come right up. So that's my website. That's where I keep most of my content at this point. Most of the sort of behind the scenes stuff that I write about, some of the lesser known facts that I try to share with the world, and some of the more special features. We've had some NBA guys comment on things, and I've interviewed Scott Pollard most recently, who had a couple PEs of the Air Max Uptempo 3, and it's actually a really fascinating story behind how he got that and his shoes. So check it out, take a look. That's on the website. My Instagram is just Kicksigma. So if you look up at Kicksigma, that's where you'll find me. And just if anybody's wondering, the name Kicksigma is really a play on two words. It's the words kicks and Six Sigma, as in like the process of making businesses more efficient and with less mistakes. And so I combine the two words, and that's what Kicksigma means. It's really my goal initially was to, get the facts right and hope for proper retros. And so that's where the name came from. I wanted to do something that kind of symbolized that goal. So
Man.
kicksigma.com and at Kicksigma on Instagram. Check it out and hope you enjoy it.
Well, Don, you blew my mind with showing me the sneakers that I wanted in my possession, and the fact that we were the same size. So, but I do appreciate the content that you've shown, and it's appreciated. Like I said, I wanted to say thank you for coming on tonight, as far as showing your telling us your stories about your love for Nike basketball. And the funny thing is, we didn't talk about Jordans. No Jordan 1s, no Nike Dunks.
Yeah, it didn't really.
You know what I mean? No Nike SBs. I mean, this is just a special, podcast, because, I'm very passionate about it. You're very passionate about it, and RJ is also passionate about it. And it's a great, and I hope people can tune in. Like I said, it's not for everyone. I don't I don't bug people. Oh, you should listen to this and that. I'm not going to change people's mind. What we just want to make sure is that we share our stories, share our passion, and just take it from there. If they want to take it and run with it, so be it. If not, then it's cool. Like I at least I'm able to share a common interest with Don, as far as like his love for Nike basketball as well as for mine. So I just want to say thank you, Don, for coming, hopping on the Zoom. And yeah, man, hopefully we'll get you on to again. And man, and hopefully next time you might have some new pickups that you've acquired, since that period of time since we last talked.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. The pleasure was mine. I mean, I can sit here all night, so I really enjoy it. And thank you for giving me a voice too. So I really appreciate what you do.
Hey.
Thank you very much. And yeah, man, I'd be more than happy to join again in the future.
Definitely. Yeah, like I said, RJ, RJ hasn't even seen this podcast episode. He's gonna be like, what? What? You know what I mean? It's just gonna be speechless. So all right, guys. So that wraps up for episode 47 with Don Griffith of Kicksigma. Have a good evening, guys.
Have a good one. Thank you.